Hello and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time it's kinda like going to classic reviews, but not exactly. So in this duel review I have two Alghazanth albums for review, and these are reissues from 2019. Why so late? For multiple reasons. One of them being, massive queue, and one of them, well, these were already quite old when I got them for review. But this is exactly a good excuse to go through them now. In fact, there will be a couple of videos. First one will feature the first albums, and the second one will feature the next two albums. That is, I'm going through from albums 1 to album 4 in a couple of videos. So let's take a look. Alghazanth stopped doing their career in 2018, that is when they played their last show, and as such they had more than 20 years, 23 years overall in Finnish black metal history with their melodic synth-driven black metal. And through those years the band got out 8 different albums, and like I said, these two here are the first one. This is Aeons Envenomed Aeons. What the hell? This is supposed to say Aeons Envenomed Sanity, but as you can see, there is a weird typo over here. Anyway, this one includes Promo 97 as a bonus. It was, if I recall correctly, released as a demo later on. So Aeons Envenomed Sanity, not Aeons Envenomed Aeons. Oh yeah. And this is not the original cover as far as I could tell, so it's this reissue version. And these 4 guys were the original, more or less original lineup back in the days, but later on, as the lineup changed, as far as I can remember, only Thasmorg and Gorath Moonthorn, the main guys of the band, if you will, kept going until the very end. And these were also the guys I got to interview when the band split up in 2018. You can find that interview in our Rauta's interviews section. This is how it looks back in the days. And those wondering what the hell is Alghazanth, I remember reading this story. I don't know whether or not it's later proven to be something different, but I think it was Gorath Moonthorn who said that this name came to him in his sleep, in a dream, and that's how it was chosen to be a name for this band, which did quite a nice career back in the days. Then the second album on this review video is this Subliminal Antenora, with a pretty artistic cover if you ask me, and this was released only a year later. So the first one came originally out in 1999, and this was, as far as I could tell, 2000 release. But like I said, these versions are from 2019, so not exactly new release anymore. I think why these were released in 2019 was to celebrate the 20th anniversary for the first album. So this is quite late to the party if you want to consider it from that perspective, but then again, good music never gets old. And now the question is, obviously, dear audience, is Alghazanth actually good music? Well, if you ask me, and if you ask the next guy in your neighborhood listening to synth-driven melodic black metal, that answer could be very, very different. Now, in my opinion, Alghazanth did their best albums later on their career. And since those later 4 albums are not going to be reviewed here, I mean they were not reissued with these first 4 ones, I can freely talk about them in comparison to these 4 first ones, or in this video, to 2 first ones. Now, in my opinion, Alghazanth really bloomed with their 4 last albums. So one could even go as far as to say the band had 2 phases. The first years, from 1999 to 2004, especially the 3 first years, where there was album coming out every year. These were, I guess, the formative years for the band. And then the later years, which started in 2008 with the Rauta Beyond, which I guess is still my favorite Alghazanth album. I haven't been listening to it quite some while, so maybe I need to revisit, before I say anything certain about these things, because as it is, taste, your taste for music and art in general kind of changes and shifts over the years. But anyway, I would say these 4 last ones are definitely the best ones. And the 4 first ones, not so much. But this is obviously a matter of question. First, Aeons Envenomed Sanity. Now, this came out in 1999, and mind you, this is really interesting that the band kept going with woodcut records all the way. So, as far as I could tell, all these CDs or whatever album formats that we're talking about came out with woodcut records, a Finnish label focused on black metal. Now, the first album here is, with the basic version, has these 9 tracks, 37 minutes, but if we take a look at this 2019 version, with the bonus tracks, well, it comes closer to 1 hour with 53 minutes overall. And you can pretty much hear it, that the original tracks here versus the 1970 bonus tracks from the promo or demo, actually. There is a kind of a little gap. That is, the 1970 versions are more raw in terms of not so much production, but in songwriting and compositions as such. Music is melodic black metal with lots of synths. It's harder to say which one actually dominates with this album because they're pretty much, 50-50 if you will. But it's kind of a more clumsier version of what the band would later on to be. I mean, there's a lot of melody riffs going places, but not exactly anything too memorable. One could even say there's a strong Dimmu Borgir feeling with this one. And of course other bands doing the same style, but maybe mostly Dimmu Borgir kind of stuff. And then there's synths with some of the parts are cool and some not so much. Some are very, very basic stuff. Now, there are no clear weaklings as such. But to be honest, none of these tracks really shine like wow. Nothing is exactly groundbreaking. It's more like the typical first album by any band. And by typical, I am not talking about how bands like, say, Exodus or Metallica did their first albums, or bands like Death and Dismember. But with black metal bands, so many bands having very low budget, having their very first CDs out, guys being young and not having multitude of demos over the years in order to hone their style and polish their, whatever. This is very typical in so many ways. It's not bad, but it's kind of like lukewarm experience. And of course, because this is the first album, the budget kind of shows that the production is not too good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's kind of a very typical for late 90s release. It's like flawless in so many ways, but it's not exactly strong, and the mixing, that could be a lot better. But overall, very, very listenable one. You just kind of have to like melodic black metal with lots of synths in order to enjoy this. If you're into older Dimmu Borgir, this might be definitely right up your alley. But the same applies vice versa. If you hate Dimmu Borgir's melodic center and stuff, Alghazanth is not your band to begin with. Well, the second album here is a little bit different. Subliminal Antenora, which doesn't have bonus tracks. It's this 43 minutes, 8 tracks. And that's where the band kind of started shedding its skin, kind of renew the whole process. Still very much melodic, synthwave and black metal, but also kind of a death metallic part started to, be part of the whole deal here. I mean, their growler vocals, why on earth? You really didn't need that, but they are there, and they're not that good. I mean, they're not bad, but very, very mediocre. When it comes to those death metallic riffs, then again, it's more like facepalming experience. I mean, why on earth? Instead of, just keep honing their sound and feel and all that stuff, songwriting from the very first album, the band decided to take a step sidewards, not, forward and, stepping up. Usually bands, I guess, do it with their third or fourth album, in order to renew and create something different after, making 2 or 3 albums the same style. But Alghazanth was like hurrying that process and doing their second album with the style that is a little bit different and so many ways weaker. The songwriting, the level of compositions, even sound is like worse. Well, the sound is very much debatable, but for example, the drums are very much on top of that, like too much. It's like this suffers a little bit because of bad mixing, in my opinion. But also those vocals, which were on the first album quite screamy, they're now raspier and less screamy, and in my opinion, worse. And songwriting is overall worse. Production, roughly the same level, even though it's a little bit different. But because of this mixing and drums being all over the top, on the front, it kind of becomes like an almost annoying experience. In my opinion, this is very, very mediocre album in its own genre. Not totally bad, but something that I guess I enjoy the least when we're talking about Alghazanth releases. But still, if you're into this kind of stuff, I don't think there's a reason to skip this one. Just expect the least and then you're good to go. After this one, the band started doing their third album, obviously, and it's more like closer to the first one. But we're going to talk about that in a very different video where I will feature the albums 3 and 4. So, in case you like Alghazanth, check out these ones. You will find link provided in the description box. And what can I say? I hope you enjoy it. Take care and see you soon with more Alghazanth stuff coming your way.